Third World Cinema Club.
Welcome guys to another episode of Third World Cinema Club. I'm John Tawasil from Present Confusion.
I am Princess Kina of Film Police Reviews.
I am Jim of Jimmy Licolat, iba pa?
I'm Engelbert of Film Police Reviews.
Louis Baharam of Cinephilia.ph.
And we have a special guest for today. You've seen him in McDonald's commercial with Jesse Mendiola. You've seen him in Rappler, the Hustle podcast, and
On Twitter sometimes.
and now in his
retweeted.
retreated multiple times.
Questioned.
And in his most challenging role to date, yeah, he's in 1,000 Cuts.
Yeah, grabe yung preparations ko for
Tristan Zinampan, yeah. So today we're gonna talk about a recently streamed documentary here in the Philippines for Independence Day. It's Ramona S. Diaz's 1,000 Cuts as part of PBS Frontline. So this is the festival version of that documentary. Who knows kung ano yung PBS version? Maybe just an hour long, an hour 30 minutes, minus commercials. So yun, it's 1,000 Cuts is mainly about Maria Reza's struggle to not get arrested.
Grabe.
And in a quick siguro glimpse into the disinformation network na tinayo sa Pilipinas in the past siguro 5 or 6 years. Ayun. So it's her para follow up to 2017's Motherland or Bayan ng Ina Mo. And this deals with the politics in a broader perspective. So I guess start na muna ako dun sa thoughts ko dun sa film. The film is parang ang dami niyang gusto sabihin. Yun yung kaya ko sinabi it's mainly about Maria Reza, but it also touches on yung natin sa election, yung senatorial elections in 2018. So may coverage with Bato de la Rosa, with Mocha Uson, also with Samira Gotok, na medyo may doon. And because of that, I think the film was a little bit, hindi siya focused, or it could have been served better as a parang mini-series. Kasi ang dami niyang gustong talakayin. And personally, other than Reza herself, it could also have dug deeper into the kasi my favorite parts doon sa documentary was when they were talking about how one influencer could, paano kinakalat yung mga disinformation messages na yun. It's one of the most fascinating parts. Yeah,
Sina Ray Jamar, ganyan.
I wish
Okay, Dubs.
Yun, sana dun nag-concentrate yung film instead of yung just on Maria Reza. And also, although I get na meron silang, they focused on just one person being targeted by the government, sana yung iba ding media outlets, kagaya nung nila sa ABS-CBN or sa yung pagpatay ng mga ibang journalists, yung talagang summary execution of journalists in general. Yun yung preliminary feelings ko. Pero sige, parang as the conversation goes on, mag-share pa ako. Pero so what do you guys think about 1,000 Cuts? Sino gustong mauna?
I'll let you guys talk muna. Tapos, syempre, I can't remove myself from narrative kasi kami yung shoot for 2 years eh. So,
yun.
Pero I'll add na lang to from what understanding namin when they were going around our office.
So sige, sino gustong mag-comment first on 1,000 Cuts?
Ako, I wanna comment kasi I saw it before it was released to Independence Day. I saw it sa Hot Docs Canada last May.
Is it the same cut, Rafi? Is it the same cut?
Yes, it's the same cut. I verified. I rewatched the PBS Frontline version and it's basically the same. Para sa akin, I understood why Ramona S. Diaz had to shoot it in a linear way. Kasi even though there were flashbacks here and there, it was shot from 2015 all the way to Christmas Day 2019 eh. When the Tristan Zinampan appeared. Char. Yan. But for me, kaya siya din 1,000 Cuts. It basically reflects what Maria Reza said in her speech sa Lasal, she specifically quoted, "What we're seeing is death by a thousand cuts of our democracy." And many people would think, ay, parang ano lang, line lang ni Taylor Swift or whatever. But, char. But I just had to plug that. But anyway, for me kasi it was very surgical in how it analyzes the information system that we have here in the Philippines. How social media was weaponized in such a way na it had propelled the likes of Mocha Uson and General Ronald Bato de la Rosa to be in, these higher level platforms that they have now, as opposed to, lower tier people who are, much, much better than these two, like, say, Samira Guto, because they had to be there, with Maria Ressa, she somehow stands in the middle of it all. Like she's the one who has to balance between you know uh, in making the government accountable, but at the same time making sure that they stay true to the vision of Rappler, which is to provide truthful and unadulterated news to the public. Of course, Ramona S. Diaz's intention was to present it in a way that you will be pierced, with a thousand cuts. It's like you're falling off, like what I described before. It was like you're falling off of a cliff, and then there are a thousand knives trying to cut you and, trying to pierce through your skin until you're rendered dead, or at least
Hence
incapable
death
of
by a thousand
moving.
cuts.
Oo. That's why it's death by a thousand cuts. And ganun siya pinresent eh. You never expect what you would see scene after scene. Ganun siya pinresent. And I think the intention of Ramona S. Diaz is to be as objective as she can be, even though she is siding with Maria Ressa, obviously. But she tries to be as much as possible, not too biased in the sense that she's also presenting the sides of Bato, of Mocha Uson. But of course, the main essence of it here is that Rappler is a stalwart institution of truth. Of course, with its voices like Tia Renada and Patricia Evangelista, echoing the same pitches that Maria Ressa has, and how its naysayers, the people who have believed the likes of Mocha Uson, have halted such voices from expressing what the nation deserves to know and what the world deserves to know. So for me, it was very effective, and I feel like what Ramona S. Diaz has done is necessary. So
Yeah.
yun.
Any other thoughts on the film? Ano, guys?
Sino na?
Ikaw, Louie. Ikaw.
Okay. Sige sa akin, I think when watching the film, perception matters as much as in any other film. Kasi kapag napanood mo tong Thousand Cuts na, ayun, shaken ka na sa mga nangyayari sa bansa mo, parang nababawasan yung weight niya. Kagabi, nung nag-browse ako sa social media, parang karamihan na nakakita kong criticism. Yung information na pre-present isn't anything new really, which I agree on. Pero it doesn't necessarily lessen the weight. Parang ang tingin ko kasi sa pelikulang to, it was mostly made for the uninformed. And that includes foreigners, tsaka Filipinos, tsaka mga apolitical na Filipinos dito sa atin. Ayun lang. Siguro I'll build up on the opinions of others na later.
Yeah, I mean, isa din sa mga questions ko when I watched this was, who was this made for exactly?
Yeah.
I mean, hindi naman siya, I doubt na it will change the minds of the DS, yung mga hardcore. And, well, at best, parang for people na talagang critical sa gobyerno, it will be a reminder. Pero, I was thinking, would it sway the opinion of other people? So, inisip ko din na since this is a PBS show, it was probably meant for an American audience.
Yeah.
Or at least an international audience. Doon ma-access sa kanila. At least meron silang parang primer to what's going on here in the Philippines. So, yun. And I think may nabasa din akong tweet na yung mga people on the fence, yung mga fence sitters, or yung mga hindi pa sila sure whether they'll go for or against the administration, tulong to na, to push them one way or the other.
Kaso ang napansin ko dito, may pagka-elitist siya eh, in terms of perspective.
Yeah. In what way, Louie?
Siguro may nabasa kasi akong tweet kagabi, tapos nung nag-reflect more ako sa pelikula, may napansin niya akong moment doon na may nagtanong na parang nag-benefit kasi siya doon sa let's say, sa Tokhang, parang tumaas daw yung sahod niya, ganun. Yung tumaas yung,
Yung pension
what
niya.
you call it? Yeah, pension. Tapos si Maria Ressa answered with a poem. Tapos parang di naman pinakita yung reaction ng matanda, nag-cut lang bigla.
English yung, in English pa ni
Yeah.
Maria Ressa.
Parang ano yun?
Actually, yun yung medyo din ako eh. Parang valid na concern yun, lalo na sa mga supporters sa administration. Kasi marami naman, to be fair marami namang nakinabang in one way or another sa ginawa ng administrasyon. So, ang dyan is mahirap mag-empathize lalo na along class lines. Kasi yung pinaka nagdurusa dyan is mahirap. Mga upper middle class or I mean, merong konting apekto sa kanila. Maybe yung mga dagdag ng train law or mga ganyan. Pero on the whole, parang their lives aren't affected that largely.
Pero I also wanna pinpoint kasi nga Louie mentioned na there's an elitistic sort of parang approach or vibe yung pelikula. But then again, we're talking about journalism here kasi it's a very complicated discourse if we are to say na journalism is elitist. Kasi let's also put into consideration the previous discussion that we've had with Direct J regarding the ABS-CBN shutdown. Kumbaga, it's along the same lines or it's along the same veins as what 1,000 Cuts is trying to present. Kumbaga, with journalism, kumbaga, we have to be as unbiased and as unclouded as we can be in terms of gathering these info. Kumbaga, we need to be informed, or not really us, but we need to be reminded of what exactly is going on. Siguro it's also why many people are saying na nakakagalit yung pelikula. The same way na nagalit sila when they saw The Kingmaker, which also I have to pinpoint that it also garnered the same feedback and the same opinions that 1,000 Cuts had. It's because kailangan we need to be reminded every now and then that this is happening in our country. And sometimes we forget with all of the shit that's going on right now. Sometimes we have a tendency to not remember that, hey, this is happening to our country. We need to stand up and fight. And I think that's what the film is trying to, to encourage people to be like Maria Ressa, to stand up and fight, and to be angry that this is happening right now in our society. Na hindi pa rin pala natin nakamit yung freedom na minimension ni Maria Ressa doon sa pelikula na she was very happy to know na the Philippines has already claimed freedom after an oppressor like Ferdinand Marcos, has, been parang napatalsik. After mapatalsik si Ferdinand Marcos, she was very happy to serve, the Philippine nation, and then all of a sudden this happens to her. Kumbaga, where's the justice in that? Where's the freedom in that? Kaya ayun, it's a necessity. It's necessary for us to know, what's going on, and sometimes we need to be reminded, even if it's unfocused.
I think it's necessary din. I think the film is a necessary watch in the sense na you still have to look at it critically. Pero kailangan mo pa rin panoorin kasi yun nga
Pwede, sige.
Sige, Louie, ko muna.
Ang napansin ko kasi dito, yung cinematic language naman na ginagamit ng pelikula is accessible naman. Pero only on a surface level.
Yes.
Kasi kung titignan mo yung mga presentation of images niya, parang they aren't really projected to be read as text, if you get my meaning. Kaya parang mapupush ka talaga na hukayin yung complexities na mafi-figure out mo na lang on your own. So, ang concern ko dito is paano naman yung mga halimbawa, yung mga masa na gusto mapanood tong pelikulang to, pero parang ang makikita lang nila, misinformation, kumbaga. Parang ganun yung nangyayari kasi.
Yeah. I think okay din sana na kung mag-include sila ng perspective ng tao na nagre-receive ng misinformation. Parang para mag-gauge mo how much have they been misinformed, and also what do they think about yung nangyayari with yung stifling ng press freedom. Kasi kung I think that would probably siguro it would solve some of the criticisms the film has in terms of yung point of view niya. Kasi ako personally mas nag-gravitate ako towards kay Pia Aranyada at kay Patricia Evangelista compared
Same actually.
Kay Maria Ressa. Kasi they are on the ground eh. They are,
parang frontliners.
Frontliners sila eh.
Lahat ba nag-express ng stance nila? Or
si Jim na lang tsaka si Princess.
Oo.
Princess, ikaw.
Ses muna. Ses muna.
Go.
Ikaw.
Ayun. So, ako mixed siya. I could give it like 4 stars over 5. Kasi maganda naman yung pagkakagawa niya. And sabi nga ni Rafi sa chat, parang this is one of her hindi ganun ka-organized na documentaries, which is very maganda siya kasi nga wala siyang flow. Pero sa akin, ang dating kasi sa kanya is, kaya nga, I agree with Louie, and at the same time, I also agree with Rafi. Kasi, I know who Maria Ressa is. Pero what if the person who's watching it, like my DBS relatives, who have no idea who Maria Ressa is, and are part of the victims of nung mga na-attack ng misinformation, or yung nasali sa group, tapos yun yung na-brainwash sa kanila na information na Maria Ressa is a CIA agent or stuff like that, ganyan.
To be clear lang
hindi siya CIA agent. And don't worry, kasi through the years, talagang lagi ko silang ine-educate na no, she's not from the CIA, she's not recruited spy, she's actually a Fulbright scholar, ganyan. So you have to, so my only worry is kahapon, when I was watching it with government employees since martial law. So they know how gruesome press freedom is here in the Philippines. Pero they have no idea about Rappler's, yung nangyari kay Rappler. Na akala, talagang pati sila naniwala na nagme-misinformation si Rappler, ganyan-ganyan. So I had to explain to them na actually, yung team ng Rappler, they're part of Maria Ressa's team from ABS, ganyan-ganyan. So, maybe she had to, kasi, sige, ito no holds barred. I have a feeling kasi na syempre si ABS, may kanya-kanya silang bias. Like si GMA may kanyang bias, si ABS may kanya-kanyang bias. So, dati, nung pina-found pa lang si Rappler, tapos yung friend ko ang nag-work dyan dati is sharing with us na, sige, like yung page namin, ganyan-ganyan, kasi we're trying to build a new website, blah, 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 ganyan. So, alam mo yun, I have a first-hand experience or second-hand experience on how Rappler was built. So, it's contrary to whatever everyone is saying now na they're being fed by whatever institutions. Hindi, kaya nga sila na-build kasi, they're not like other news outlets. Wow. Bayaran mo ako, Tristan.
May ganon?
Plug.
That came out of nowhere, girl.
Joke.
Add ko lang din pala, very quickly, one quibble that I had with the film, upon my first and second viewings of it, would be the language itself. Not the cinematic language, but the language it uses. Siguro dito ako nag-agree with Louie in a way. Kasi predominantly English di ba?
Oo, parang kahit yung kasama ko mga nanonood, parang sabi lang, ang konyo naman yan. Tapos ako, hindi ganyan lang talaga sila magsalita kasi they're used to that language. Pero they're very down to earth. Parang gano'n. Kung hindi ko i-explain yun or hindi ko sila kilala like sila Pia Aranyada or si Patty Evangelista, ganyan, or si Maria Ressa herself, mahirap siyang i-explain. So, actually kahapon, may isang group na nag-discuss about that. Tapos, medyo group sila of intellectuals, elitists, ganyan, whatever. I said that na my only worry is that how if it won't connect to makamasa audiences or
Yeah.
the ones who really need to see this. Kasi tayo, we have an idea what this is kasi we know these people who are subjected to yung subjects ng documentary. Kilala natin sila second-hand experience. Pero what if those people who have no idea who they are, paano? So, ang reply lang ng lahat is, well, ginawa siya for Western audiences. And I think that's something that the filmmaker should address. Kasi, parang, okay, it's a Filipino-American documentary. It's not a Filipino documentary. You know, parang wala siya, the film itself doesn't have its own identity.
Yes.
So,
And I feel like if we really want the film to leave a lasting impact, it wouldn't be with the international audiences eh. It would be with our fellow Filipinos kasi syempre alam natin yung nangyayari pero hindi lahat tayo alam kung ano yung sitwasyon tulad nga ng sinabi mo. Ang dapat mas makaalam ay yung mga tao na hindi sila nabigyan ng liberty or ng privilege to access information. And yung documentary na to, had it been had a different language been used to say what it wanted to say, pakiramdam ko it would leave a better impact sa maraming tao.
Stronger nga.
Ako, I agree din dun sa mga ibang points nyo. So, ang una kong napansin or na-observe with 1,000 Cuts ay unfocused nga siya. Kasi usually in a docu, nakafocus lang siya in, let's say, 1 to 3 case studies eh. Then may mga resource person lang na i-interview. And then babackupan mo lang yun or susuportahan mo siya ng facts or details regarding the case studies. So, beforehand, parang I expected with 1,000 Cuts na Rappler lang, saka si Maria Ressa yung focus nung story. However, may mga different angles like nakita natin yung sa campaign, ng elections nila Bato, ni Mocha, Samira Gutok, even yung Duterte's war on drugs, yan, the fake news, then pinakita din yung struggle nila Pia Ranyada and Patricia Evangelista. Ang nag-stand out sa akin dito ay nakita natin yung women empowerment. Kasi mas nag-focus sila dun sa mga babae.
Naging
diba,
asa ba
within
si
the
Jess?
rapper. Ganon. And then, I agree then with the multiple messages ng docu. Saka yung naging barrier yung ginamit na language. Kasi, masisense mo agad na yung docu, ang kinikater niya foreign audience. Kasi sa atin, na mga Filipino, we already knew yung mga pinepresent nitong docu. Yun lang yung parang for me, ang barrier kasi nung language na ginamit nung film ay para rin, agree din ako sa iba na paano siya ko-connect dun sa masa. Kasi not all, hindi naman natin ina-underestimate, pero may mga tao pa rin naman or may mga Filipino pa rin naman na hindi ganon kaano rin with English, diba? So, yun, for me, yun yung napansin ko with 1,000 Cuts. Saka ang natutuwa din ako with 1,000 Cuts naman, not only sila Pia Ranyada saka si Patricia Evangelista and Maria Ressa yung nakita ko eh. Nakita ko yung
Ako,
kahit,
nakita mo ako doon.
Yes, nakita kita. Natuwa ako doon.
Uy, kaibigan
kasi
ko
ba
yan.
yung
Sa podcast.
yung si ang natuwa kasi ako nung Tristan yung sila Glenda Gloria. Kasi di ba sila yung hindi napapansin? Di ba yung managing editor, yung ibang kasama ni Maria Ressa standing for her. Ngayon, kahit na konti lang yung exposure nila, di ba may part pa nga na usapan na tinatanong si Glenda Gloria na, paano yan? Ganito, ganyan. And then sabi, di makulong, ganun, I'll go to jail, ganyan. Pero di ba ang usapan, biglang, ang ang target naman talaga si Maria Ressa. So ang ganda ng moment na yun na nag-uusap sila dun sa sa office. Ayun. Yun lang naman. Maikli lang naman yung comment ko with 1,000 Cuts.
Ayun. Sige, Louie.
Okay. To add to that, isa sa mga strongest points nung docu para sa akin yung yung stories of human drama niya na pinapresent ng mga journalist as susceptible. Kasi isang standout moment dun sa akin na talagang nag-resonate sa akin yung nag-yosi si Pat Pasta ba yun? I'm not sure.
Pat Evangelista.
Kasi parang magkamukha sila ni Pia Canada sa mata ko. Pero ayun, nag-yosi siya tapos she broke down and cried. Basta sobrang resonan na akin. Kitang-kita mo yung paranoia sa mata.
Yes.
Ayun lang naman.
Saka ano pa pala, yung isa pang moment na nagustuhan ko doon, sorry, yung di ba nasa podium si Pia Reñada and then suddenly she broke down.
Yes.
And then sinabi niya na hindi siya makapaniwala because Rappler was on their side, na hindi sila iniwanan. Kahit ganun na yun nangyayari. So parang, well, Tristan, I believe you're proud as well with your company regarding on that matter. Kasi talagang makikita mo yung support din ng ano nyo.
Tristan, ikaw, what can you say about it?
Kasi diba, okay, I cannot react in a way na, kasi this has been basically dinocument yung buhay ko for the past 2 years. Kasi literally, like in everyday office life namin na document. So this is like 2 years worth of footage. 2018, 2 years worth of footage. So, ang ano ko lang doon, it's like, most of the commentary that I hear, most of the criticism, it's because like we have an idea of what the definitive Filipino documentary on press freedom and on Rappler should be. But again, we're forgetting that we're trying to fit this documentary into the form that we want it to be. Pero again, the intent was not for local audiences. I know I know many people may find it, bakit hindi para sa masa, but it was mostly spoken in English. But again, kasi this was produced, ang producer siya tayo foreign. Ramona herself is based in the US.
Yeah.
This was intended to show sa foreign festivals. So again, if it's not yung gusto natin, okay, ito yung ipapalabas namin sa klase namin or ito yung ipapalabas sa mga teatrong Pilipino, I'm not speaking for the filmmaker, but again, this may not have been the intent. So, it's hard enough to craft a narrative documentary kasi you have to sort through 2 years of footage. You have to pinpoint to the scope and how do you streamline things. So, ayun nga. I don't really know how you can reconcile that. But like what he said, John, di ba, na it is still worth the watch kasi it adds to that. Okay, we may already know what's happening for us well informed, or those for us who are aware of of the news, di ba? Pero it adds pa rin. It adds to that current feeling, so it adds to our current knowledge. Pero ang tingin ko kasi, yun nga, yun lang yung basic dissonance eh. We are expecting something that will be catering to us for first and foremost. Pero again, that was not the intent of the filmmaker. Dadagdag ko na pala, just to make it clear, yung through line when they shot it was that they just wanted to present the attacks on press freedom, the disinformation network via the lens of Rappler during the elections.
Okay.
So, yun yung alam namin that they were shooting. So, dun siya nakasentro talaga nung ginagawa siya.
Okay.
I may be mistaken, pero kasi ako rin just to make it clear, kaming hindi news reporters, kasi wala ako sa hard news wala ako sa justice beat, wala ako sa police beat. I handle culture and more alam niyo naman I handle hustle, di ba? So it's a culture section. So I'm not in the crosshairs, wala ako sa front lines per se, like my colleagues. Pero kami rin, hindi namin, when we first saw the film back in February, sa private screening, kami rin ourselves, we didn't know na, covered rin pa si Bato, covered rin pa si Mocha. Ganun. Pero yung kasi, they were really capturing what was happening during the elections. Kasi I think that's the case study for for the machinations when you talk about attacks on press freedom and the disinformation network. So alam mo yun, in a way, I'm also commenting as a viewer, pero I cannot remove myself from the narrative kasi yung nga when I was watching it, I was also unsure if am I enjoying this kasi basically war flashbacks eh. I mean,
PTSD.
alam, may mga inside jokes kami, may mga alam ko yung context kasi nga it is a lived-in experience of ours eh. But at the same time, I think I was too embedded to actually give a objective reading like you guys.
Okay. Cess, you have something to say?
Ayun. So, kanina kasi yung parang non-commendable aspect, which was yung disconnect niya probably to more local audiences. So, yung commendable aspect naman niya is yun nga. In a documentary style, I enjoyed and I also like how it allowed me as an audience to understand not just Maria Resa's struggle, but also the bit players, which would be si Mocha, si Bato, even yung parts ni Duterte na sabihin na natin hindi naman niya always na pala sinasabi. So, like yung mga sa speeches niya about, crass about women and stuff. So, yun. So, I enjoyed na she was able to talk to Bato, to Bongo, to Mocha. It wasn't just like hindi siya naka-center lang on one particular side. So yun. So I hope na although yung ending kasi nito hindi siya katulad ng ibang documentaries na somehow may konting resolution. So it's still similar to her previous work, si Imelda, na parang you can't trust the narrator herself.
Yes.
Pero dito you can trust you don't have to choose just or select one narrator. Parang marami silang narrators. That's parang it's up to you if you would enthrall yourself with the data that she showed. So yun yung commendable aspect. Especially showing Maria Ressa not even shedding a single tear. That's a rare feat talaga. So
And I just have to add then, kasi I had a debate with a friend about 1,000 Cuts yesterday. Our main debate relied on the fact na I kept bringing up the idea of this documentary being a reminder of what's going on with the state of journalism in our country. And paulit-ulit niya rin sinasabi sa akin na hindi pwede na ang pelikula ay reminder lang. Kasi syempre nakikita na natin yung realidad eh. Dapat ang mga pelikula hindi na lang siya nagse-serve as reminder kasi parang na lang din siya. It's like a distilled version of what we see on our TV screens on reality, on real life, na kailangan na documentaries, films, or whatever type of moving images would be put out there. Dapat they're like a hammer na they have a tendency to break expectations and be able to create change whenever it's capable of doing so. Syempre, there are instances where you consider paano mo i-break yung expectations na meron ng tao and paano mo i-create yung change na meron ang tao. Kumbaga, parang for me kasi it depends on when you do so. Sometimes we start with the reminder for us to make it happen. Tapos once that reminder has been born or has been concepted, that's the time wherein other people can branch out and can make more films or more forms of art that will, spark change or will spark something within the hearts of many people. So I think 1,000 cuts is definitely a good starting point for many people to realize that there is something going on with the state of journalism in our country. And the question now is, where do we start the change? When do we start the change? And how do we start the change?
Ayun. Meron akong question sa inyong lahat. Yung isang, I guess, yung isa pang criticism ng film is, bakit nyo binigyan ng platform yung mga likes ni Bato?
Ayun din tanong ko.
Do you think it was necessary for forming the narrative? Or do you think giving, like siguro doon sa Kingmaker din, parang yun din yung parang why give Imelda a platform, di ba? So in this case, do you think it was necessary for, for the creation of this docu? Or do you think medyo superfluous yung paggamit nila kay Bato and kay Mocha na rin siguro?
Kasi tingin ko doon, just to start things off, okay, whenever we look at on journalism, at documentaries, we keep saying na we want an objective perspective. We want to see something as removed of bias as possible. Now, of course, you cannot be completely unbiased as a person kasi every person has their own bias, di ba? But I think the best you can do is you present you want people to be as well informed as possible. So if you are talking about characters like Mocha, you're talking about characters like Bato, as a filmmaker, you are forced to grapple with the decision, will I give these people a platform? I mean, mahirap siya kasi like you want to be objective and you want to be unbiased, pero are you magsisimula ba sa'yo ang pag-label na I'm not gonna give them platforms kasi quote-unquote masama sila?
Right.
Diba? I mean, I think that's the act of reconciliation that filmmakers go through Kasi kami or like my fellow yung colleagues ng mga journalists in the front lines, they also need to get statements from these people when it comes to the news kasi you have to give them a chance to respond
Mm-hmm. And gusto ko lang ding i-rebut yon, not really rebut, but kasi I read a few comments on Twitter regarding also that idea, yung giving platforms to the likes of Bato and Mocha, and one of them that I remember picking up from, and it also made me question why they were given a platform. Kumbaga, there is a possibility, or there is that looming possibility of many DDS fans who would end up watching the film using, those instances wherein likable Mocha. Like one example there, and I remember this very vividly, is yung nasa loob ng kotse si Mocha, and she was describing how her father was murdered by a riding in tandem, and her father was apparently a judge who was handling like an electoral protest, if I'm not mistaken, a electoral protest case. So kumbaga, parang you have a tendency to empathize with these characters, not really characters, with these people, but at the same time, how can you empathize for them if what they're doing is, totally different from what they intend? Because let's be honest, and this is probably going to be very controversial even for me. I think they have good intentions, every single person in the world. Bato, Mocha, their intention is to make the Philippines a better place. I think that's in their minds, probably. And we have to agree with that as well. Pero, their actions are totally different from what they intend to happen. And maaari na the DDS people would use these instances na makikita natin si Bato or si Mocha as a platform to further support them, to further give them, I don't want to say clout, but give them recognition, so to speak.
I think the problem stems from, and this also applies to what EG to what Rafi to Rafi's point, I think many people kasi conflate sympathy and empathy. So you don't have to necessarily agree with the person's politics, or you don't have to necessarily support the ideals of this person to empathize with them. Like I understand what you're going through, pero it doesn't mean I will support you in this in this endeavor. Kasi diba gets? I mean, ano yun eh, you have to understand the complexities and the layering, how layered individuals are eh. So example, just because you sympathize with, not sympathize, you empathize, sorry, I'm correcting myself. Just because you empathize with what Mocha went through and actually believe na, okay, baka sa tingin niya, ito ang paraan to achieve something. You cannot in your okay, quote unquote right mind, you cannot in your right mind support the efforts, her efforts in misinformation, di ba? Or in feeding the public the information that's been proven false. I mean, you cannot
Right.
support that. But still you can empathize. Pwede mo kaawaan, kita mo na parang she was losing support from her own camp. You can empathize. You can understand na okay, may mga daddy issue siya. Pero that doesn't translate na ay okay, promo ka na ako.
Yes, I agree. And this is where the limits, I guess, of the documentary also comes from, no? Kasi, of course, with that in mind, nandun din yung idea na, the documentary will not really leave a lasting impact then. I'm contradicting what I said earlier, na I said that it might leave a lasting impact. But I guess I want to correct myself now and then. It will leave a lasting impact in the future, probably to the future generations who will end up watching this film. Pero right now, as of the moment, it's there. We remind ourselves that this exists, but at the same time, do we really need to be reminded again? Parang I'm contradicting myself with what I said earlier, and I apologize if ever I need to. Pero in hindsight, and now that I'm thinking more about it with everyone, with everyone's opinion, do we really need to remind ourselves again na tawag dito, na nangyayari to sa atin?
Punta tayo sa meron akong isang interesting na viewpoint na nakita na regarding yung pag-shoot ng pelikula. Yung cameraman nitong pelikula is a foreigner. Hindi siya And merong point yung isa na yung access to people and yung shinare nilang information, lalo na yung kunyari kay Boto, ganyan, is different compared siguro kung Pilipino yung DP ng pelikula. Do you have any comments on that?
I think I think those are worthy discourses na not exactly about the content of the film, pero it's emblematic of of the industry in general. Like, yeah, you're bringing this discussions into the fore na I think tama naman, pero that's emblematic of our colonial roots and our of not just the film industry but society as a whole na we have in a way we still worship the white man or parang there's added prestige or you are more receptive pag feeling mo may international clout yung ginagawa mo. That's why we praise we go gaga pag may Pilipino nakakapasok sa contest abroad. Pasok sa balita lahat ng mga bagay na gano'n. 'Di ba? I mean, get what I'm saying? That's a societal, that's also a societal discussion eh.
And I think mahaba-habang discussion yun if ever yeah.
Ayun guys, any more comments on on the film? Do you think din ba na yung limited na viewing window niya affects yung... Do you think this film should be accessible to more people?
I believe so kasi I'm not comparing it with Kulingil Bimbo kasi it's a different platform or a different form of media, 'di ba? Pero kasi 'di ba yung effect nung Kulingil Bimbo, like nag-number 1 siya in trending sa YouTube kasi kahapon nung chinek ko siya while watching it, it's number 21 or number 15. And then ang nakakapanood lang ay within the territory of Philippines. However, outside the country, hindi. So, hindi lahat naka-access watching the documentary. Ganon. Pero I believe they're doing something na eh. Kasi parang in-update nila sa Twitter.
Ayun. Ako din parang personally, one of the most important ways of battling disinformation is information. Disseminating information. You have to tell the truth. And kung meron kang, if you have documentaries like this, pero konti lang ang makakita, anong matutulong nun sa bansa natin? Although, yun nga, there are a lot of considerations regarding that.
I think diba? Kasi in an ideal world, I mean, that's what we strive for. That's why meron internet. I mean, the access to free and accessible information is key to battling this information. So any form of information that may add to your knowledge is needed, if not warranted, diba? If not wanted, sorry, not wanted.
Ayun. And I guess parang it could have been a way to, kasi yung the docu presented all of these problems, di ba? Pero yung it could have been presented as a viable solution to those problems na in-emphasize nila that yun nga, maraming umaatake sa amin, all we can do is the truth. Pero yun nga, may pumasok na love, ganyan, forgive me. Ganyan. Pero alam mo yun, sana nagdagdag. Tinatanong nga ni Maria Reza, cheesy ba to? Pero in a way it works, in a way sana dinagdagan pa ng something else.
Sa totoo lang ako, after watching it, kasi I agree with what you said, guys, na parang it tackles so many things, pero it's in the span of 2 hours. I would have wanted to see it both extended and built into chapters.
Yes.
Filmmaker, kasi siguro kasi right now, sanay na tayo sa documentaries with the advent of Netflix, sanay na tayo sa documentary na multi-parts eh. I think it could have, kasi this was shown in Sundance, so alam niyo may time frame, may schedule siyang hinahabol. Pero I would have wanted na maging parang The Wire in its capturing the whole ecosystem. Parang I would have wanted to see talaga, okay, what's happening sa Rappler, what happened post-elections, even cover siguro nangyari sa ABS-CBN, kasi if it's gonna be all about press freedom na rin. Pero again, we are working in I'm speaking as a viewer. Parang we are also working, we have to understand the limits of documentary production.
Yes.
Na okay, you're given a span of time when are you gonna premiere. So even if I want to include something, kunwari na to, ang hirap kasi diba, pag documentary, you never really know how it will turn out kasi it would be not ideal naman na gumagawa kang documentary with already a story in mind. What you want to do is capture as much footage, and then from what you've seen, from what you've understood in that span of time, like 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, you streamline it para it's both in-depth and covers it. You have to reconcile na dapat in-depth siya, pero at the same time, it's all your bases covered. Kaya ako personally, hirap pa rin ako mag-review ng documentary eh. Like, if you notice, I mostly write about narrative kasi it's so hard to judge something na alam mong it's supposed to be a snapshot. It's not supposed to na parang ginawa siya with a lead in mind. Personal ko lang yun.
So yung sinabi ni Louie, para sa perspective ng pelikula, may parang paradox na nabuo. Kasi napansin daw niya, habang mahaba yung screen time ni Moko at saka ni Bato, yung screen time ni Samira Gutok, parang set to the side lang siya. So ang observation daw niya, kaya mahaba screen time nung Bato at saka ni Mocha is to bear how ridiculous they are, yung parang hypocrisy nila, etc. Pero at the same time, yung nangyayari kasi, nawawala ng opportunity maipakita kung anong klaseng tao sila sa Samira Gutok. Kung ano silang klaseng tao. And that kind of lessens the impact of women in the workplace. Ayun na si Tristan. Sis, okay na. Nabasa ko na. Ayan. Dapat ba naka-angle in such a way na magkiklink lahat ng baso natin? Ayun. Ayun. So, any final thoughts siguro? Kasi wrap up na tayo. Any final thoughts before we end this discussion? Ayun. Ako, yeah. Yeah, sige, Louie, ikaw. Ako
Stuck yata si Louie. So.
No.
Stuck kanina pa siya.
Ako it's a very flawed film. I hope whoever watches this digs deeper. I wish may follow-up. Kasi, and if they have the resources, given that if they have the resources, gawin nilang series. Kasi, and show it to the people. Kasi the people need to know. Kasi kung ang source of info mo lang is, tawag dito? If ang source of info mo lang is Facebook or yung mga Chuchu Bell supporters, die hard, ganun. Wala ka talagang mapapala.
And release the Diaz cut.
Diaz cut.
Sa HBO Max na.
Ayun and also I guess perspectives din. If in the making of the film, more perspectives sana would be nice. Pero yun nga, we're talking about this a posteriori. Tapos na eh. So, kung sino man yung gagawa ng 1,001 cuts, ganun. Electric Boogaloo.
2,000
cuts.
2,002 cuts.
Ganun na lang.
Hey guys, let's put into context pala na we are recording the day before the verdict.
Yeah, ang nga pala.
Let's put that into context. So baka we release this after. Syempre, the narrative again will change kasi that will be another big
It would be nice if they re-released siguro this thing after the verdict tomorrow eh. We're recording this, wala pa eh. Kasi everything will change.
Yeah.
It will talagang mape-paint na si Maria Ressa as this parang heroic figure or something.
Yeah.
Parang martyr.
Pero nakakatakot.
Sorry? Ano?
Nakakatakot.
Nakakatakot.
Nakakatakot talaga.
I mean, personally, parang I adore her as a boss. So, I mean, alam mo yun, it's hard then to fathom ano pwede mangyari. But syempre, yeah, we hold the line, courage on, lahat ng aming hashtags.
Yun. And if this is if it ends up in a guilty verdict, it will set a precedent talaga. Tapos parang irony lang din na tipong nung pinapass ni Tito Soto yung cyber libel, sinasabi niya, hindi to weaponize, dito gagamitin for ganyan-ganyan. The first thing na talaga nila is yung cyber libel, yung pinang nila kay Maria Ressa. So,
and to note na, retroactive.
Retroactive pa, di ba? So, no one
also,
is safe.
Also, hindi involved sa Maria sa mismo article yun.
Di ba? Captain of the ship. Ganun pa yung lumabas na, we are living in a place na napaka-broken na ng system. Na wala eh. Ano magagawa natin? Yun lang.
May article
May
na lalabas
comment ako
bukas.
dun
Ano
sa
hope?
ano, nabasa ko yan, may nabasa akong tweet about yung the film being 2 hours long, na parang sana daw naghanap ng viable solution. I think kasi this is one of those documentaries, like kunwari, isa plastic solution, na it's an hour and a half long, pero it's not something that you could actually solve. Like press freedom is a thing that you
Yeah.
could actually solve in one go eh. So parang, daming cameo
Tawaan,
ng
ang daming cameo sa likod mo, Ses.
Oh, yun. So, I hope na maging okay yung turnout. And even if, knock on wood, as in, hindi maging okay yung verdict niya tomorrow, this will still be a very important film to back up, her story. So,
Yeah, kasi we're living through history eh. If isipin nyo, like, these times we are in right now, itong darkest timeline natin, we are living through, we're living through a pandemic. So, we're seeing in action laws and changes with our, with our constitution na, I don't know, it will be it will go down history eh. So, whether good or bad, I won't comment on that. Pero gets, these are, you cannot deny na people will be talking about these moments for years to come.
True, that's true. And fingers.
Saka, if people are lazy to Google or Wikipedia who Maria Ressa is, whenever she said dun sa documentary that she chose to be in this country, she voluntarily chose. It's because she's a Fulbright scholar, so that means you have access to choose where you want to, go to school. So parang very noble pa nga na nag-aaral ka na sa US, pero you out of all the schools in the whole world na pipiliin mo para mag-masters, bumalik ka pa sa hometown. Tapos ganun na yung gagawin sa'yo. Diba? Yun.
Doon kailangan fact check yung info kasi di ko alam.
Ayun.
Pero, well, the point being, she came back. Kasi na siya, based abroad na siya eh.
So yun. So first they came for the journalist and then you don't know what happened next.
Yes.
Fingers crossed na walang mangyari, pero you never know. With this
Di
country.
na bang araw.
Ayun. So, ayun. Thank you guys for being with this discussion. Medyo marami tayo ngayon. Ayun, medyo hindi naman super complete pero marami tayo ngayon. So, natuwa naman ako dyan. Sige, what have we watched recently? Just go.
Ayun na lang. Ito rin ang last watch ko eh.
What have you watched recently other than 1,000 Cuts? Anything? Watch, listen to? Sige, start na muna ako. Dalawa yung napanood ko recently. I guess, siguro mabilis lang isa. Mabilis lang din. I recently watched on Netflix a Thai film called Back to the 90s. Ayan. So,
Si Bayfern yun, diba?
Oo, siya yun. Fan ako eh.
Ganda.
Fan. Ang cute niya doon, dinala niya yung pelikula. May parang Back to the Future vibe siya. Pero isipin mo kung si Marty McFly, nagka-crush siya sa old flame ng tatay mo. Ayan. So parang ganun yung nangyari. Okay naman siya, it's cute, pero rushed yung third act. Sana hinabaan pa nila. Yun lang naman. Panoorin niyo, nakakatuwa siya. Kung fan kayo niya, ni Bayfern. Tapos yung isa ko palang pinapanood is Normal People. Yun, it's a 12-episode drama series from Hulu. It's based on a book of the same name by Sally Rooney. And nabasa ko na yung libro, tapos nasa episode 6 na ako. It takes a while na kumapit sa'yo. Pero once kumapit na siya sa'yo, shit. Medyo, malagkit siya. Para ramdam mo ramdam mo na these two people like each other. Pero may circumstance sila na, basta. And yung napansin ko na yung framing niya is, medyo, may sinabi si Tristan earlier na parang may pagka-raw yung pagka-film niya.
Yeah.
Parang nanunood ka sa kanila, pinapanood mo sila. And then interspersed with parang montages tsaka more formal looking shots.
Yung gusto ko parang it's very raw in its depiction of like intimacy, desire.
Yes.
And basically, ano yun it's like, you know how people connect and this is how, I don't know, parang how people are drawn to each other talaga na how people build a relationship of codependency minsan. Na, okay, it's not exactly romantic, pero you know na they need each other or parang they fit ano, one another, not just physically.
Yan. Tapos sige, Tristan, ikaw, what have you watched recently other than
Ako,
1,000 Cuts?
Not recently, pero I also watched Normal People and another show from Hulu, The Great, si Elle Fanning as Catherine the Great. So same writer siya as The Favorite. So Tony McNamara. So alam mo yung very satirical na it's a parang I'd consider it already a piece of alternate history kasi it takes history and plays around with it. Kasi even the dialogue, like mixing modern and the past. Pero ang isa pang pinapanood ko, I got access to screeners of HBO's Perry Mason. So, noir. It's classic noir. And I like it kasi it will be released on Father's Day. So, very pantatay siya.
Sa HBO to?
HBO. It's a remake, not a remake, it's a reboot of this 50s, 60s show about a lawyer. Pero ngayon, ginawa niya ng PI. I mean, parang siyang prequel. The early days, before siya naging lawyer, he was a PI, kunwari. It stars Matthew Rhys from The Americans. And then, ano pa ba? Wala, I've been watching trailers of Last of Us 2.
Sa
Preparation.
June 19 ang release niya, no?
Yes, I've got my pre-order stub.
Wow. Okay.
Sana all.
Last of Us.
Sige, sino next? What have you watched recently? Rafi, ikaw.
Ay, sige. No Independence Day, medyo marami ako napanood, pero two films na isa lang. Yung unang pelikula na I really wanna talk about is yung Bakit Dilaw ang Gitna ng Baghari ni Kidlat Tahimik.
When was this film, Rafi?
Ano yan?
When was this film filmed?
1994.
I see.
I believe. Yeah, 90s siya. I've seen ang unang pelikula kasi napanood ko kay Kidlat is yung Turumba, which I saw during the now defunct world premieres film festival. Yan. So doon pa lang sobrang hanga na ako kay Kidlat Tahimik as a filmmaker. And then I saw Balikbayan #1, Memories of Development Redux because of Activista Film Festival.
That's nice.
So, talagang hanga ako kay Kidlat Tahimik as a filmmaker. Kaya niyang gawing compelling yung storya niya bilang isang tatay sa anak niya, which is si Kidlat de Guya, and be able to connect it to Philippine history. Of course, during his time, in such a way na makukompel ka. Kasi yung Bakit Dilaw ang Gitna ng Baghari, it's in the form of a diary. Parang nagkikwento lang siya, and the film goes on with its usual storytelling about kung paano tinuturoan ni Kidlat yung mga anak niya na maging tawag dito artistic, kasi artistic by nature si Kidlat and then he adds these bits and pieces of information regarding what's happening with the society, with the rise and fall of the Marcos era, and with the disappointment coming into the new government with the constitutional, with the democracy na nabuo from the 1987 Constitution. Kung mga talagang pakukompel kayo, talagang yun lang masasabi ko. Talagang wala akong masabi. Yun.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sige, okay.
Tsaka I saw one Korean film. The English title is Beast Clawing Astro. It's a debut film released this year, and 2 words lang masasabi ko talaga. Holy balls.
Panoorin
Ganda.
niyo yun. It's a great film. I agree.
Sobrang, ganda. Promise.
Ayan.
Yun lang.
So, sige. Jim, ikaw naman. What have you watched recently?
Ako, tatlo eh. Pero siguro kahit dalawa or isang
Sige, ikaw bala, Jim.
ang ma-share ko. Ang napanood ko kasi End of the Spear, Overcomer. So, dalawang faith-based films yon. Although End of the Spear is based on a novel or a book with the same title by Steve Saint, and then The Way He Looks, na isang coming-of-age film. Ganon. So, with End of the Spear, nalungkot ako kasi nabasa ko yung libro. So, mahirap kasi pag film adaptation, syempre, you're expecting na yung nabasa mo sa libro, lalabas siya in the film. Ganon. However, hindi siya nangyari. So, ang nangyari kasi with the film, 3-act siya. Dun sa first act, yun yung, kasi siya, tungkol siya sa mga missionaries. 5 missionaries during the 50s, trying to reach out the Waodani tribe in Amazon. So, they're reaching out with the Waodani tribe for evangelism or spreading the gospel. Ganun nga. However, as they tried to reach out, they thought kasi na inaatake sila yung Waodani tribe. So, ang ginagawa kasi nila, they are one of the dangerous tribe in Amazon. Ini-spear nila, yung sinisibat nila yung kalaban nila. So, they thought, kalaban yung mga missionaries. Sinibat nila yon. Tapos, yun yung sa first act. And then the second act, yun yung tawag dito, nag-reach out pa rin yung family ng mga napatay na missionaries. And then the third act, yun na yung author mismo, si Steve Saint, deciding if he will stay dun sa community. Kasi ina-ask siya to stay in the community. Ang observation ko with the film was that dun kasi sa film, confusing yung method or way ng evangelism, unlike sa book. And then sa book kasi mas adventurous siya because detailed, syempre the hunting, and then paano nila talaga ni-reach out yung tribe, ganun, yung mga methods. And then hindi kasi doon pinakita yung controversy na bakit pa nila ni-reach out na pinatay na nga nung tribe, 'di ba? Parang may parang there's something, a motive. Yun yung tingin kasi ng mga tao kasi bakit mo pa i-reach out yung pinatay na nga yung family mo gano'n. And another controversy din ng film was that yung lead actor kasi si Chad Allen is an openly gay and activist. So this is a faith-based film. So ang controversy, bakit siya yung gaganap? Yun. Pero sa nabasa ko naman sa article or trivia, yung si Steve Saint defended him naman. So yun yung nakita kong mga tawag dito, observation. Ayun yung observation ko sa film na parang nakukulangan ako with the film kasi syempre iba yung pag nabasa mo yung libro. And then with Overcomer naman, hindi naman siya disappointing kasi I followed the Kendrick brothers yung mga films nila. So through the years nakita ko na improvement kasi with Flywheel makikita mo pa yung amateur style pa ng filmmaking and then nag-improve na siya when they made War Room 2015 ganun. Kasi hindi talaga may iwasan with faith-based films and yung preachy talaga yan, 'di ba? So pero with Overcomer naman maganda naman yung kinalabasan, okay naman siya. Kasi bawat films naman ng Kendrick Brothers may thematic naman siya. It's not only about faith. For instance, here in Overcomer, it talks about identity as well. So, yun, enjoy ko naman yung film. Yan.
Last but not the least, Princess, yan. Do you have anything that you watched recently?
History 101 on Netflix.
Okay.
I saw the China episode.
Okay. Kamusta naman siya?
So, kasi I was very curious before. Hindi ko kasi siya masyadong nabasa sa school. Pero natataka kasi ako alam ko naman yung communism is about, sharing the wealth, ganyan. Pero you'd wonder how China became this massive, economic giant all of a sudden. So, it all started pala after Mao Zedong's death. So, yun yung tinakal ng History 101. And then yun nga, parang kasi sabagay, nag-fail kasi yung system na ginawa ni Mao Zedong. Sorry, Chinese friends. China number 1 friends out there, sorry.
Taiwan
But your
number 1.
system failed, so someone else thought of a way.
The
to,
opinions of
boost the
Third World
economy.
Cinema Club.
Yes.
Kaya tayo sa episode na to, meron magre-revolusyon. Tapos,
Ay, sorry
meron
Oh
naman.
shit, Third World Cinema Club, shit.
But guys, ayan, so disclaimer, opinions are what they are. Opinions. May ganon.
Kaya may
Wala po akong
account
alam
na ako.
about
Doon na lang ako. Hindi na ako
Rafi.
mag-Facebook. So if you want to watch documentaries with kind of a knowledge is power vibe, just check out History 101 on Netflix.
Yan. So that's it. That ends our episode for today.
Okay na. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you sa lahat.
Thank you,
Ayan.
guys. I miss
Thanks,
you all.
guys.